Priscilla Lentini, and we have our guest here, Liz Mangum. Today we're talking about aging and the process of aging, trying to make the most of it. Because by the time we get there, we're like, whew, what's going on? The way of the spiritual path is understanding the way. There's laws and principles around everything. When we understand the way of the spiritual path, then we can get in the way or out of our way. The way of aging has its own conditions. Our body changes, our relationships change, our level of importance changes. So we're going to explore some of the ideas with Liz today. Liz is a reflexology specialist and a very dear, loving, kind, and humble woman who is gracious, curious, exploring life, and moving through in a gentle way. I find you moving through life in a very gentle way. So Liz, the belief system out there is as we're aging, people getting mellower, they don't feel as important anymore. Sometimes their life feels a little meaningless. I notice people will fall into over-medicating, focusing on their ailments and physical conditions. Yes. Many elders move into depression. So I was wondering, you don't seem to exhibit any of that. What is your philosophy on aging?
Aging is really, in this country, it's very different from in a lot of other countries. One of the things that's very important in all ages is for us to have our community around us. People that love us, that, if possible, believe like us. Here in the United States, a lot of times we're separate from our families. People travel, they move a lot with their work. So one of the most important things for us to do is to create our own community. And for mine, it happens to be a spiritual community, but whatever community you feel comfortable with. I have some friends that they're in book clubs, and they love that. It keeps their minds stimulated. So I think that's one of the most important things, is to realize that we're not powerless. And while fortunately the world is changing and we are learning more and more about natural health, about the power that we have to control our own lives as opposed to turning it over to any other group, whether it's our doctors. I don't want to say anything bad about doctors, because I go to one. We wouldn't have the long lives we have if we don't have the medical profession that we have today. Mm-hmm. So I think Western medicine is just wonderful, and I'll be glad when one day we can all work together with the natural healing and the Western medicine. It would just be dynamite. For example, this is a little bit off the subject, but with reflexology, we can help people to relieve their stress before they go into surgery after they do that. But as far as our aging, I believe that we're given each year alive here on earth. We may not know why, but it's very important, and it's important that we make the most of those. And I know sometimes if health challenges come up, we've lost a lot of loved ones probably by this point.
Yes. And
like you say, if we're taking pills, too many pills, all of those things can affect our body, our health. So I think one thing that's really important about the natural healing, about taking care of our body, is about eating as many raw foods, as many green foods as we can, drinking alkaline water or whatever water you like, really. Being sure to exercise, because that relieves depression. It's a wonderful tool. I couldn't get through a week without doing some exercising, even if it's just walking.
Yeah, exercise is very... the chemistry that happens when we exercise, the endorphins and things like that. Even people after they have surgery, they're encouraged to get off of the bed and start moving around, because even the medical industry acknowledges the movement is really the activity, the circulation, the flow. We are interacting with our environment when we move around, especially walks. Water is a great tool for exercise for elders, because when our bones and our joints get a little stiff. People are fearful of falling.
Right.
Because the bones are brittle. So swimming is a great exercise for older folks because, one, there's a tactile. We need so much touching in our lives. And I think when people get older, they move into isolation. So the water is like a soothing experience on their physical body, and it shows resistance. There's resistance in the water as we move around in the water. So it's just like we're supposed to do weight training all the time, but in water there's a natural resistance.
Very good point. Yeah.
And it's got that soothing thing. And then metaphysical, the expression of water is emotions. So we kind of get in touch with our emotions when we're in water.
Exactly.
And then doing those like water aerobics classes, you're in community. So like that's a perfect thing for older people to do, is get in the pool with other people and take a little exercise class and really experience on so many levels.
Absolutely.
And when you mentioned so many people, so many friends dying off, I remember speaking with an older lady, and she said, "Oh my God, I hate my address book." And I was like, "You hate your address book? How do you hate your address book?" She says, "I turn the pages and there's so many names crossed off." And it just makes her so sad. One thing that I appreciate about you is you have a cross-section of age groups that you socialize with. Right. And I think that's really important, mixing it up, having younger people, older people, different cultures to always learn from.
I think that's very important, and I think that we actually have, it's through our experiences, through what we've learned through our life. I certainly won't say that I have just learned it from a book. Unfortunately, I had to learn it at experiences, but we can, those experiences help us to relate to younger people, like in your group. I know you have a lot of younger people, and while it may be more comfortable to live in a senior community, and that's fine if we do that, but just to get out and just to listen to young people and to support them and to let them know that what they're going through, you understand, because there's so much judgment and so much criticism of people that
it's okay.
don't understand. So what I've found is that our society in general, we think, doesn't appreciate seniors and doesn't appreciate their wisdom. And certainly, like indigenous cultures, they appreciate. It's just a natural part of their family and of their community. And here, honestly, I have found that people do appreciate seniors. We have to volunteer and go out. But I found a lot of love from people, just believing the good in people and knowing that there is good. And that there may be somebody when I'm driving, that I do drive a little bit slower than I used to, only 80. But
you only drive 80 miles an hour instead of 90. Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Right. But then somebody will come up behind me, and maybe they'll think, well, why is she going so slow? Well, it's dark. I don't see as well, But just try to. I've learned a technique to send them love. Just send them love. And you'll find immediately somehow they either turn off the road, and you say, well, I'm sure you probably had a hard day, or, you're probably tired, need to get home to your family. Maybe your wife is on the way to the hospital to have a baby. I don't know. But anyway, just send them love. And all of a sudden, some of the non-loving things in your life go out.
That's important, too. That's really important. And I heard you say, when you're approaching people, that you're getting a lot of kindness. That's really you putting that out there, because you're a kind person. So when you interact with somebody who's kind, they're like, oh, here's a kind lady, let me be kind too. So I think it's important to show up in a valued way, that we value ourselves, even though we may have lost our job and our kids don't call us anymore, or right. we don't feel important. When we feel important because of our own true self, about our spiritual practice and things like that, this time in our lives, those distractions and responsibilities have been taken away.
Yes.
And now there's a lot of emptiness. Unfortunately, in our American community, we don't value the aging process. We don't value spirituality out in the community. Like if we belong to a church, then that's the conversation, but we kind of leave that there and then we walk around like everybody else. But when we really own our spirituality, whatever religion or thing that we do, I think, and express it from there, I think that that's a powerful statement as we walk through the world. And like you said too, back in the day, even before the American culture got so busy, and of course the European and the Asian, they really value their elders. And it's natural and normal for a grandparent to be taking care of the grandchild. They have the patience, they have the time, they have the wisdom, and they have the simplicity to convey to the little ones. And I know teenagers, they don't get enough attention at all. I'd love to see elders and teenagers hang out together and discuss ideas. So tell us some stories about how you moved into, because you were in a funky place and not feeling so great, and then you found your spiritual path, another version or another elevation of your spiritual path.
Yes, and I think one thing that's so important, you mentioned the spiritual aspect, when all of these things, when we are losing all of the things that we have loved for so long, you know, our work, some of our family, our loved ones, we are left with an emptiness, and just how are we going to fill that? And I think that's all a part of our life. I think it's, I think we here in America, in a way, we are lucky to have so many things stripped from us, because then we begin to see the truth of who we are, and to realize that there's a higher purpose for our being here, that there is a plan for us, and to know that that can fill us. We can, even if people are at home not able to get out, they can do meditation, they can do prayer. One thing that's very important, I feel, is preparing ourselves for this next world that we're going to. For example, if you see a baby coming into this world, not only did that decision have to be made for them to come in, they're at least 9 months, you know, in their mom's womb where they're safe and protected. And then just think how many years it takes for a child to become an adult. All of those things of learning this world is what it really is, and how to function in this world. So the same is true, I feel, when we're going into the next world. And there's many, many ways, no matter what spiritual path you like, or even if it's just not called a spiritual path, if it's something that elevates your feelings, your mental state, your emotions, that's very important. And I think one thing that I've always heard, and certainly with Pranic Healing, is, you know, your life review. As we go to the other world, a life review is done. And sometimes you hear people, if they're experiencing near death or death for a few minutes, they go through that life review. So we can start doing things here now. We can look back over our lives, and we can sort of see, not in a critical manner, but just see some of the things that we want to have done differently. And we can actually try to erase those and try to give a different ending to them. And I would advise, I don't think we should ever do that alone. I think we need to do it with a counselor, with a minister, with whoever we trust to help us with that, because we don't want ourselves to be starting to think about these things as, you know, making us depressed or anything.
Yeah, we get very critical and feel like we're a bad person.
Yes.
I think with this extra time and space that happens as we age, the mind can get really aggressive.
Yes.
And berating and so on. And that's why people move into the depression and the pill popping and, and, you know, just complaining, and kind of, it's easy to slip into a negative vibration. So how did you land on your spiritual path as of recent?
Well, and part of it we'll talk about in another episode too, but as far as my main spiritual path now is Pranic Healing. And of course, I have you to thank for that. And it's a funny story how I got into Pranic Healing. I kept seeing Ursula. I was doing reflexology, and I would see Ursula. I saw her at Unity Atlanta, And of course, Ursula was out, speaking, and I was just working on people's feet, and so she was speaking about pranic healing, and then I saw you again at Zen Tea in Chambly, where the International Sound Therapy Association was present, and you were part of that. And then the third place was at a large expo at Whole Care Medical in Gwinnett County. So.
And then we ended up working at Living Foods Institute
yes,
together.
Yes.
So the universe kept bringing us together, bringing us together, bringing us together. And we kept joking, oh, you're following me. No, you're following me.
And it was so funny. And of course, every time I heard you talk, you had talked about the Twin Hearts meditation, which is such an important part of pranic healing. And every Tuesday night, you have a wonderful group right here at the Love and Light Center. As a matter of fact, it's amazing because most meditation groups, there'll be maybe 4 to 10 people. Every Tuesday we have about 40 people. So it's incredible, the truth of you, the truth of the pranic healing, and people, and we do a lot of blessing of the earth, which is certainly needed during this time. But anyway, so I decided that I should come on Tuesday night, to the Twin Hearts. And I'd been going to another meditation group on Tuesdays, and one Tuesday night I sort of thought, well, it's time for me to go to Twin Hearts, but I didn't know exactly where it was, and But anyway, I got here early. I actually parked across the street at a Kroger. I went inside a Kroger. And when I came out, I came up right behind my car, and there was 2 bills neatly folded that were new. It was $20 and $5 bill. Now, I had never found that amount of money. And it was just like somebody had just even made the money and put it there. And the other thing that I didn't mention, I was going to have a very short reflexology session with someone before my other meditation, and that would have been about $25. So that was such a sign to me. It was such a clear sign. You're supposed to be here. This is your path now. The other things that you've been doing.
You're on the money.
Yeah.
You're on the money.
Yeah. So it was. And then, the other part, I started doing the Twin Hearts meditation here, which is so powerful with a group. And then I bought the CD and took it home and started doing it almost every night. And like I say, it's 18 minutes. It's mostly blessing the earth. And it's also helping us to remember happy times in our life. It's very wonderful, so many wonderful things. You just move to a different place. And all of a sudden, my life began changing because I'd been working really part-time at Living Foods, so many things. But through the pranic healing, I eventually decided just to go out on my own.
You took pranic healing class, and you became a pranic healer.
Yes, I took pranic healing from you.
So it's never too late, really.
Never too late.
This is an adventure that so many people can take. It's so easy to meditate. There's no requirements. There's no, you have to be this one. There's no requirements. You just show up and meditate.
Right.
And the Twin Hearts meditation is specifically for healing. Emotional healing, mental healing, even physical healing. Different meditations are for different things. So the Twin Hearts meditation is very specific because we're healing the planets. We're projecting loving kindness to the planet. But in the meantime, we get the healing because it's a fleshing of energy to get all the stuff out of the way so we have more energy to bless. Right. When we show up, and I've watched it time and time again from all kinds of people, their life just starts changing after they do the meditation. Right. So that happened to you, and then you took pranic healing class.
I took your pranic healing class. Actually, I'd taken one in 2008, which I never did anything with. Isn't that amazing? So I guess if I'd started on my path back then, I'd be far ahead. But anyway, it's okay.
It's never too late.
Never too late. And so, and I'll have to say for the Tuesday night meditation, I think it says a lot for that you are in your place of power and of truth, because the same people come week in and week out, and the new people will come too, but it's always such a huge, huge group, and there's a lot of love and support there, but not a lot of focus on what's wrong. but just focus on how the meditation makes us feel. It's very uplifting and very well guided by you. So, you know.
And the other thing about meditating that's important is the consistency. So when older people have time on their hands, they can be consistent with something that's very good for them.
Yes.
And it's another way to do community. So even no matter what kind of meditation it is, people can gather around community. People can say, hey, you know, girlfriend, sister, neighbor, come on over, we'll do some little meditation together and have some tea.
Right.
So when we're in community, that's also very fulfilling. It's the opposite of isolation, which can be the downhill swoop.
Yes. Yes, and it's totally against any spiritual principles. You know, we're all one, we're all united. Separation is only something that humankind has created. It is not real. And the other thing that Pranic Healing shows us is that love is so much stronger than hate. It shows us energetically that. So it's not real that we aren't alone, even though, especially when you get older and maybe, you know, you feel alone, but there are other people there for you.
Nice. So the last point is how lucky we really are in this last cycle of our life.
Yes, I feel every year that I'm given is a blessing. And I have, my brother-in-law says every time he wakes up and he can breathe and tell he's alive, he's thankful. And he's not really that sick. I mean, but I think it's a real privilege. And you see people that can live to be 100 years old. And those people are the most positive people you will ever meet.
That's true. You never meet a grumpy 100-year-old. They're always joyful and doing things productive. They're in the garden. They're talking.
Right.
Yeah,
You mentioned something else that you know, nature is so important for us to be in, you know. However, if we can, even if we can just do a little gardening within our house, or if we have a little ledge outside, whatever we have, you know, if we have, you know, so the natural living, the natural gratitude and appreciation, we these are all spiritual principles, and I feel lucky to be associated here with Pranic Healing here on Earth, and I just feel so very, very fortunate. So,
Awesome. So just to wrap up the show, the aging process doesn't have to be the blues. We can be very happy. We can be sacred. This is a sacred time of our life to let go of all the distractions and responsibilities that in today's world, you know, they talk about the very successful people, and time is more important than money for them. And as we age, we have a ton of time. So it's like the wealthy time of our life as far as our spiritual practice, because you can't take it with you. We can take spirituality with you, but you can't take the money with you. So getting ready for the next place that we're moving on to, from becoming a baby, preparing our adult life into our adult life, and then as we age, preparing for our next life. That's a very important thing to be conscious of and be aware of, and that it's an important time not to dilly-dally and watch TV all day long. So please share this with your parents or any older people that you know. I think it can be uplifting. You are always an inspiration to many of the people who do the Twin Hearts meditation, and I think when we're out in the world and you're doing Pranic Healing, people are like, wow, look at her, she's powerful. And it's very simple. But it's fun and it's fulfilling. So get on your spiritual path. This is the way of the spiritual path. My name is Ursula Lentini, and this is Liz Mangum. And we are so happy to share the information with you here today. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.